match me to.
Perfect. We're
Very
good.
good. Morning in progress.
Thank you. Good evening. Today is Monday, February 28th, 2022. The time now is 6 p.m. and I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's disaster declaration dated March 21, 2020, related to the COVID-19 virus and the town's emergency electronic participation policy for regular and special meetings, this meeting will be held virtually in Zoom. Virtual access information, including the Zoom meeting link, has been provided on the town's website and at designated posting places. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and the public hearings. Copies of these guidelines are available in the back of this room and are available online. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Trustee Babcock.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright. Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, February 28th, 2022, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence for those living under the threat of war in our world. Thank you for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. My pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I will motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay, roll call please, Mary?
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Move on to our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I did just want to add that this Thursday we will be closing on the property downtown, just north of the Mead Town Center. Everything seems to be lining up for that property purchase, so hopefully that'll all go well. Also, I'm sure you noticed that we did install the first of the signs that are going in around town. So I think we hope by later this week we'll have that sign, the LED sign lit up. They are working to put in the other signs, the entry monument signs. You'll see new signs in the park. And they're pretty distinctive. If you want to see them ahead of time, you can go see them. They're over in the bean plant that they're taking them out and installing them. So they look pretty awesome. And then finally, we've issued we're in the process of issuing the second and third major building permits for large commercial projects. I'm sure you're aware of the postal project over there that's going to be a large Home Depot distribution center, 400,000 square feet. Their panels started going up today. They actually sent me a text. I went by them this morning. They were pretty excited. So you're starting to see that go up. And then elevations 25 over on 9.5. We will be issuing that permit tomorrow. Large buildings, very large permits, large source of revenue to the town as well, both in sales and use tax and impact fees. Probably around 1.5 million in impact fees from these two projects. So these, again, growth's paying its own way, and we're kind of excited to see these projects. They're really putting us on the map because a lot of people are interested in them. Particularly, they're very visible, and it's a commodity in the market right now that people are looking for. And I do believe we'll see another building, one that hasn't been daylighted yet on that postal property where you see the dirt being mounded up by the frontage road. They're looking at putting another building in there yet this year. So things are moving, staff's really busy, they're doing a great job. I really wanna give a shout out to staff today, just to say, this has been really tough to try to meet the timelines of some of these developers, but we've done it, and it's been hard, but that's why we're here. So I just wanted to say thank you to our staff while they're here. And with that, I'll answer any questions on my report.
Okay, questions, comments? David, do you have any, questions or comments?
No, not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you, Helen, for your report. Thanks, staff, for all of your time and energy on all these projects and programs that we have going. All right, we'll move on to our informational item. The first one will be our, very exciting quick trip, and I'll be introduced by our Community Development Director, Jason Bradford. So, sir, you have the podium.
Thank you. Is this on? All right, thank you. I just wanted to invite Michael Talcott to come and explain about the project that will be coming before the board very soon here, the Quick Trip property. This is located at 66 and I-25, and Quick Trip purchased the rest of that subdivision that's called Mead Crossing. So we're very excited because we've worked with them for several months now, and we know them to be very responsible. We know them to be very receptive, and they have a real vision for not only this specific site, but also for the rest of the subdivision. So we're very excited about that, and with that, I'll invite Michael to come up, and he has prepared a presentation for you to tell you a little bit about this specific site and maybe the rest of the subdivision as well.
It's PR for Quick Trip.
Yep.
You
Thank you.
Once again, Mike Talcott, Quick Trip Corporation. Thank you guys for having me tonight. I don't know, are any of you familiar with Quick Trip? Not yet.
Not yet.
We'll go through some of the slides.
He's here. Yes, he loves you. Yes.
Oh yeah, where's he
Sorry.
from originally?
I don't know.
California. Ah, there we go.
He's in Vegas tonight, though.
I'm actually building a store in Vegas as well, so, just to be a little bit repetitive, we'll get through some of the slides, but we've family-owned business, been in business since 1958. We have 900 and I think 57, 58 stores right now. We open about 80 a year. So I might be out of date by 10, who knows. I've been with Quick Trip actually March 3rd, later this week is my 25th anniversary, so. I started in the stores mopping floors and overnight, so know a little bit about it. I don't know, do I get a clicker or is it? It's right here. All right, well, Quick Trip Corporation. Just a few facts. 15 years, we've been on Fortune's 100 Best Companies to Work For in America. I cannot say that word when I'm in public. So we're always listed on Forbes' top 100 privately held companies. We're currently at 29, so we still got room to improve. Founded 58, yep, I'm repeating myself. Still family owned. I think it's like 57, 58% is still the founding owner, still owns it all. And the rest of it is owned by employees like me, so that's pretty cool. We create an average of 22 new jobs per store. Now this store is a larger, what we call a travel center, not a truck stop. I want to make that clear. We don't have a football field full of parking stalls. We don't have laundry facilities. We don't have showers. Drivers are in for a couple hours maybe, stretch their legs, get something to eat, then they move on. They're not camped out for long periods of time. So years ago we had those other things and we tried and said, hey, let's take them out and see what happens. Didn't change. People still come to us, so it worked out well. This one will be bigger, so it'll be 6 to 7 full-time positions, and then it could be 25 to 30 part-time positions, usually high school kids. I have 3 kids. 2 of mine have already worked at Quick Trip, so it's a good place to work. Flexible schedules. We've never laid off an employee in the history of Quick Trip. Never. You know. Average store manager makes $100,000 a year, and that's also tied to a profitability bonus. Also 401k, paid vacation time, paid sick time. Start off with, well, think they start off first year with a week of vacation plus sick time, and then after a year, 2 years, 3 years, it builds to where they can end up with 6 to 7 weeks of vacation. I'm in the office, so I only get 4 weeks total, but I'm not really complaining. I get holidays and everything else also. Average entry-level assistant manager, $55,000. Now that's a night assistant that, you know, their responsibilities are less, but it gives them a foot in the door. They still get insurance, time off, all that. They get to work their way up. Like I said, 25 years ago, that was me. Let's see. Quick Trip, yeah, this is actually pretty exciting. 5% of the profit we make at that store, there'd be an opportunity for me to reinvest it in this market. Okay. What happens is once we get a few stores open, and I have 3 in construction, 3 more about to start, but I have over 30 in development in the Denver metro right now. The employees nominate a board, and the board gets to decide where that 5% goes. So it's not corporate saying where it's gonna go. Now, on that note, there at the bottom, you'll see United Way, Folds of Honor. Those are our corporate charities, but the 5% that goes back is different. That's decided by the people that live and work in the community, so. National Safe Place location for endangered use. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that before. I did a search. Colorado Springs has one. And when we get stores open, or the first one open, we will give an endowment to Safe Place to get one up here. Whether that's here or Denver, that's up to them. But what it is a safe place for troubled youth to come in, go to the assistant manager and say, hey, I need help. Then the employees, we're not counselors. You know, we don't try to counsel them on the spot. We get them someplace safe, give them something to drink, something to eat. Then we call Safe Place and they send out a counselor. So it's something we're pretty proud of. And maybe. Alright, did I break it already? I talked too long. Let's just hit the big button before. Okay, oh, there you go. Now that's pretty much everything I just said about Safe Place. I will make it hear it again. Folds of Honor, that's one of our partners. We work to provide scholarships to family members of veterans and current active duty military. Cool thing that happens if someone is, say they're in the Guard and they get called up, obviously they keep their job, but in my instance, I have one son and soon to have 2 that are in the Air Force. They go on leave of absence, seniority keeps building. They come back, they've already got all that time. So it's something like having 1.5 or 1 and soon to be 2 boys in it. I really enjoy it. Store security. We're committed to providing the best security for our employees and customers. We have cameras everywhere. A big part of our design process is making sure we eliminate dark corners, hiding spots, make sure the lighting levels are equal everywhere. And this might be a little fib, but every square inch of QT property will be under video surveillance. There might be a couple square inches. And the next slide, or here's some of the things before we get to the actual graphic. We have check stand alarm buttons hidden in discrete places, buttons in the back rooms. I'm gonna date myself, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Remember pagers? Well, everyone on duty wears a little pager looking thing that is a wireless alarm also. I have brought that up and I've had people go pager. That's what it is. Cameras all over the sales floor. It's actually a DVR system with high def video. We also have the capability of, say there is something that goes wrong, or, and I speak from experience from being in the stores, if nothing wrong happened at our store, but the police will come in and say, hey, did you see someone come in that looks like X, Y, and Z? We can go back and view video and maybe find that person, burn them a CD and give it to them. So that's something law enforcement likes us to. And we like them hanging around. Here's the graphic. This is just a different site plan, but all those cones are what we cover with video cameras. And that's not even counting what's inside. So, not just our employees, but customers who want to be safe, feel safe, and it's part of it. Now we get on to the fun stuff. And I think people ate dinner, so here we go. We have a full service made to order kitchen in all of our stores. This is just looking back at it where we have pizza, deli sandwiches, pretzels with cream cheese, and I mean, you name it, it's all good for you. But it's kind of actually fun too, you guys will get to see it once we get it open. You come up and there's a touch screen where you order it yourself. And that's where you get into trouble, cause you add more toppings, you add more, but it's very good. Here's some more pictures. This is just looking at the sales floor. Besides the kitchen, we also have the, what I would call normal food roller grills with hot dogs, taquitos, egg rolls. Once again, all the stuff that's really good for you. But as you can see in the front here, we have evolved a little bit. We have fresh fruit, yogurt, salads. I'm gonna get you some healthier pictures too. We have both. There's the donut case, which we actually make our donuts ourselves. In the beginning, until I get to a certain number of stores, all of my fresh produce and fresh pastries will come out of my Belton, Missouri plant. It'll be trucked every day. And once we get to a certain point, we'll actually build a facility somewhere here close. That is part of what we do, is fresh stuff every day. So there we go. There's a salad. And they actually are really good. And all this is packaged in our commissary as well. It's all Quick Trip employees. More, like I said, sliced fruit, fresh fruit, power, what do they call them, P3 power packs. And then we've got protein bowls, top left, bottom left, croissant sandwiches, pizza. We have a breakfast pizza that is very good. I don't know if you guys have had breakfast pizza before, have you? No? Okay. Well, when we get open.
That'd be my first try.
Oh, yeah. Well, I fully intend to have some type of a grand opening with you all, and we'll have breakfast pizza, that's for sure. And it's low on calories. We're also, we have, burritos, we have brisket, pulled pork, chicken, then we can do sandwiches, barbecue sandwiches, or burritos, tacos, the deli sandwiches on the bottom left, which actually, you're used to going to convenience stores where they have like microwave sandwiches. Well, they actually get made in the store, packaged, and then put into the coolers. So they're not made somewhere else and refrigerated for weeks and shipped there. We actually make them in the store. So they're that much fresher. Hot dogs, of course, wraps, and then milkshakes. And they're very good. Can you tell I like sweets? So here's our typical, what I call on-tap bar. Top left is all of our fresh brewed teas. Top right is the frozen cappuccino, hot cappuccinos, and the push-button machines. Bottom left, that's the danger zone for the kids. Those are all the frozen, my kids love that. You name it, they're slushies, but very good. Bottom right is our regular coffee bar. And when I say regular, I'm really underselling it, because we do a seasonal, we do like Costa Rican blend, a Kona blend, rotates in and out. But then we have a Colombian all the time, a dark roast all the time, decaf. I mean, and it's been a while since I've been in the stores, but we kept them on timers. Each one of those holds roughly 2 gallons. And whether it's empty or not, every hour it gets dumped and remade. So it's always fresh. So you will better never have a bad coffee. It's so calming, because it's not what we do. Here's the overall view of the property. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with it. We bought everything except for, the park and ride, U-Haul, and there's a couple little parcels right in the middle that were already owned by somebody else. So we'll be up along the frontage, roughly right there, and I'll show you the site plan next. We're relocating those private irrigation ditches, so we'll be expanding a little bit. And then I know there's already some interest and actually some talks with city staff on some of the other property that will be our surplus that will be selling. So here's the site plan, how we lay out. We plan on improving, we will be improving all of the frontage along our site to a better, I think they call it cross-section, because it wasn't done appropriately way back whenever it was done. So we'll be ripping it out and redoing it so that it's actually the right strength and everything that it should be, so it lasts. We'll be improving Foster, adding a turn lane. Also, we'll be putting signals there at that intersection as well. So we won't have to worry about conflict getting in and out. And with the amount of interest we've already gotten, I do expect more to come. The rest of that's going to fill in. It's a great location, great place to be. So here's our just a boring elevation. We'll get to better pictures in a minute. I say boring, but we're pretty proud of our building. There's a lot of architectural embellishment to it. It is an actual structural brick building. It's not lick and stick brick. I mean, we build them to last. And And that was something our founder, Chester, he wanted a store that could last 50 years. So we've been spending a ton on our buildings for that long, but they stay around, stay in good shape. So here's kind of an aerial view, a rendering of what the site will look like there on the corner. And just the back view, or back angle. Another angle. And then you can see we've worked with staff, there's a lot of landscape. We're gonna make that corner look nice. And from the corner of the intersection. That's all the pictures I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have, and once again, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Pretty awesome. Thank you, Mr. Talbot, for being here tonight.
Mhm.
Questions? Frank?
I do have one, but it's not for you.
Okay.
I think it's for Jason. I'm not sure I really understand where this location is. I'm not familiar with Foster Boulevard. I'm looking on the map, and maybe it's just my ignorance, but can you help me?
Could we maybe go back to the
Yeah.
slide, the overall area, aerial?
Do you know where the U-Haul is? The U-Haul in the
Which
parking
one?
lot?
I-25 and
Right on
66?
66 and I-25, so you drive down there, the entrance to that, you pull in and then you go way back around
Yeah.
to the U-Haul. He's gonna be on this corner where you first turn in
So as you're
to
heading,
go to the U-Haul and park and ride.
yeah, as you're heading east on 66, that
That.
first place you can turn left to go south into that development that has streets but nothing else there except the U-Haul. That's where it's at. Does that help?
Just the streets with the streetlights that have been developed forever.
Looks like a movie
Like,
set.
But there's nothing there except the U-Haul, so it's a whole.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Because we all do it at some point, we're like, where in our town? As soon as you see it,
You'll have
drive
to-
66, I guess.
So it's a
So
southwest
just
corner.
west
So
of
we're
66.
gonna go east and we're gonna pass 7.
Uh-huh.
We keep going east, then we're gonna get on to the
Here.
right side to get onto the freeway.
No,
Is
oh,
there-
no,
is there
right before
someplace-
that, right before, so on the west side of the road where there isn't anything except that U-Haul tucked away
In the
there.
parking lot.
And the
In the parking lot, there's that.
I know where the parking, that's up, right up against I-25.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
you
in
come
that
back
whole subdivision.
west.
It takes more people to tell me.
That's all right.
Oh, not me up there.
They did pull the aerial
Well,
out, if that
okay,
helps.
so yeah.
No, it's okay. It's
So
not
here's
critical.
that park and ride.
Yeah,
And there's U-Haul.
but go up 66, go up this,
That's the
that's the
very
big one
top.
on top.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
here.
that's the big one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
66.
this is where, yeah, so.
So
if
7 is
you're
to your
coming
left.
from 7, here's coming from 7, and you're driving east, they're gonna be right with Foster, no, is that Foster?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Foster is the road that you have to take in to come all the way back here to get to that. This is all empty, but there's the streets and gutters and streetlights and nothing else, cause it's all overgrown and it's been there forever. Does that make sense?
Is that where there's also, is that like old 66, cause there's a bridge that goes over something in the middle, see, you guys don't know
No,
either.
Yeah, I don't know. No, that's
34. You're thinking at Welcome 34. This is just,
66 and I-25.
It's not important, I was just,
But it gets, I know, sometimes it's like your brain doesn't.
I went through all that, and I.
Well, we have a mission for you now, tomorrow
Right?
morning.
I have to drive by and check it out. I've never heard anybody be so excited about a gas station, and I mean, sorry, I'm gonna
Well, you know how people
about a
are,
quick trip, because that's amazing.
my corporate folks don't like it when I say this, but you know how people are crazy about In-N-Out?
Yes.
We're like the In-N-Out convenience store. We really are, kinda have a cult following, and, I mean, it's,
So I have a question, do you know Buc-ee's or?
oh yeah, I know Buc-ee's really well.
So it sounds like Johnstown's getting one of
Uh-huh.
those, so just, all of a sudden these like big establishment of, like you said, the in and outs of gas stations. I guess Colorado, it just isn't that gas station mecca. Where did you guys start? Where did Quick Trip start?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so I was born in Indiana, raised out here, but there are huge gas stations and they're not travel plazas because there's nothing else to do on the, like, there's the interstate. So it's really exciting. I'm not familiar with Buc-ee's, but it's like all of a sudden Quick Trip and Buc-ee's and In-N-Out, it's all
Yeah,
coming.
Buc-ee's is a different operation. I mean, when I took the family to San Antonio a year or two ago, we stopped at a Buc-ee's just so they could see it, and my kids loved it. cause it's like 35,000 square feet. You can buy a barbecue grill, you can buy clothes.
So
and
not the
like-
same thing.
No, I mean,
Okay.
it's a huge,
Yeah.
and,
It's a destination location kind of thing.
alright, and I probably shouldn't say this, my wife would kill me, but when we were there, she still has the pictures on her phone, she took pictures in the bathroom. Okay, we have excellent bathrooms, our bathrooms are checked every half hour by our employees and cleaned, yeah, absolutely, but Buc-ee's takes it to a new level, not cleanliness, but like in the men's bathroom, literally 35 stalls with doors. I mean, it's insane. I mean, but she actually took pictures because she wanted to show someone.
What was she doing in the men's bathroom?
No, she was the witness, but I'm like, yes, she is the one who took pictures in the restroom.
That's me. Well, I'm super excited, especially, I'm excited for you guys to come to me, but I'm so excited for that location, because once you figure it out, you'll be like, because it is this, like, what happened? We have roads, we have lots, and we have street lamps and nothing.
Great location. We're
It
excited
is
to
a
be
great
there.
location,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of a desert out there, except for you, Paul.
And to your kind of your other point off of Buc-ee's, you know, the Denver market has gas stations, but they don't really have full service convenience stores. So
True.
that's really the drive. There's some competitors that are building also that are similar in operation to me. Our people are better. I'll say that all day long, but I mean,
And you guys are building one in Longmont at the Del Camino at 119,
well,
right?
it's technically Firestone.
Firestone.
Yeah.
That side's Firestone?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I
that
learn
one-
something new every day.
That one's supposed to be open in June.
So, but the one that's being constructed right now on the corner, that's a Quick Trip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can't.
Most of it was, there was one small, like 1 acre parcel that had the annex, but the rest of it already was Firestone.
I can't keep it like, I mean, I can't keep up.
It's way smaller, right?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't service, semi trucks at all.
Okay, so
The
it's.
building itself isn't way smaller, but yeah, you just take off the back half of the site plan, and that's what that one is.
So I have a question for you. So I've traveled to New York and
Mhm.
back with my daughter, and I've made that trip with dogs multiple times. And I've always wondered why these truck stops don't do any kind of, some kind of small enclosed dog park for people who, their dogs need to stretch their legs. Maybe run for just 10 minutes of getting out there, exercising and doing stuff like that. Have you ever thought about putting in, I mean, I see you've got a lot of grassy areas and stuff, and that's great.
I own 3 dogs, so. Yeah.
But
I
is
thought about
that something that's ever been considered? Man, it would have been so nice to be able to have just, take them off leash and just let them run for 10 minutes even.
I won't
in
say
an
it's,
enclosed
I won't
area.
say it hasn't been considered, and I won't say that it won't be considered. This site does have a pretty big grassy area behind where the trucks park,
Yes, I saw that.
so I'll see what I can do.
Maybe we'll
Just not, I would have just, I'm sure if you've got dogs, you know how
Oh,
that
yeah.
is, and traveling with them, it's so hard, and so that would have been so nice to have, so it'd be something, it would have been the first.
Absolutely.
It could be the first.
Very
First.
nice.
I don't know that you're the first, actually.
Oh.
I mean, we're in 14 states, not counting Colorado, and like I said, we're building stores all the time, so I don't know.
I mean, that would be a draw, like, when we were looking for places to
Mhm.
stop, I mean, we were trying to find places that had a grassy area for a dog to go on, and it wasn't just muddy road,
Right.
Right.
or the road street itself, something like that. Like, that would be, I think that would be a draw, to be able to put on a little sign, don't park. In addition to a nice big gas station, just a
Well,
thought.
I will bring it up to my operations guys, and I think one of them's listening online tonight, so we'll talk tomorrow.
Colorado is a big.
Oh,
We're
no.
very dog friendly state,
Like, yeah.
very dog friendly
Very
state,
dog
So I have 3, and they rule the house.
Yeah,
Them and the
I think
kids.
that would be a nice unique draw for it, but.
Any questions, comments? David, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
good, well,
Thank you very much.
I'm always reachable, any other questions?
Don't you think we're excited? We're so excited.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
There are some municipalities that aren't necessarily, but no, this is gonna be great for everybody. We are truly excited and happy to be here.
Great, well, thanks for coming tonight.
You bet, thank you.
All right.
Mayor, if I
Yes,
could,
go ahead.
just one more thing while he's still here. One thing we are working on right now with them is a sign for their signage, and as you know, they own the entire property around Quick Trip. So they'll be controlling the destiny of that site and what type of properties come in. But we're working with them on a kiosk sign, so it'll have Quick Trip, but then it'll have areas for placards. It'll also have the town of Mead on it, so people won't have to wonder, like the one that's in Firestone actually has Firestone on it too, but they'll know that they're in Mead. But at the moment, our sign code precludes the height that's needed so you can see it from I-25. So he actually provided some visuals of what it would look like. So we're gonna be coming back to you at some point here to look at the possibility of an overlay district along I-25 that'll allow a little more height. Because some of these sites are challenging. For example, 34 Welker is way down low. So if we had a 35-foot sign was as high as it could go, you wouldn't even be able to see it from I-25. So we're gonna come back and revisit that in the future. But he's been great to work with, coming up with the renditions of where it looks from every angle. And I just wanted to bring that up because that prototype of sign is really important, because that's really what we're gonna be looking for. And we may even use that as the idea for over on the east side, coming up with a sign that would direct people back into some of those businesses. So anyways, more to follow on that, but I thought I'd bring it up now while he was still here.
Thank you again for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks,
Glad
Jason.
to be in person again.
Yeah, right. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our recreational events update from our PIO, Lorelei Nelson. Ma'am, you have the podium.
Thank you. I'm sick, so just FYI. I'm scratchy and a little hoarse.
You don't look like a horse.
Well, that's good to know.
Thanks for being here, though.
Of course. It's just sinus infection. Alright, so I wanted to give you guys a brief overview of what we have for our 2022 recreation and events. We didn't do a lot of changes going into this year. We are trying to kind of build back after COVID. So we have spring and fall soccer that's going to be held locally. This is pre-K through 3rd grade. So Mead teams practicing in Mead, playing in Mead. For volleyball, spring and fall, we are partnering with Carbon Valley. And this year what is new is that we will be splitting games. So we will be playing some games in Carbon Valley and some games here in Mead. And this is something that we did to offset the costs. So when we partner with Carbon Valley and we partner with Longmont, we actually pay them to join their leagues for referees and facility costs. So with this, we won't have that fee assessed, and we're splitting it, so we'll have our officials refereeing our games and vice versa. We will be adding coach pitch this summer to our baseball league, so we will be offering t-ball and coach pitch. One of the hooray moments were that we got the approval from the school district to use the baseball fields at the elementary school. So we will be using those fields. They allowed us to go in during the week after 6:30 or 6:30 and on, and then all weekends. So that was a huge thing for this summer. Allowed us to add in that coach pitch, which is something that several of the baseball teams had requested. It was a tight squinch at Liberty Ranch, so this is going to let us build that programming. Basketball we have planned through Longmont Rec still. And then another thing that we're adding this year is tackle football. Again, this was a request from several parents that wanted football. We looked at NoCo Central and they are willing to add a Mead team. So how that works is they register through NoCo, but they practice here, and depending on how we work it, they might have a game here or two. We were just notified last week that the Twin Peaks Flag football is kind of changed and it's gridiron. That's not something that we were aware of. NoCo Central also has flag football, so we'll look at that as well. Kaylee and I had several discussions on tackle football. I personally don't like it at this age, with concussions and all that. But, you know, the conversation went, should we allow personal feelings on tackle to limit what we provide? And the answer we came to was no. We had an interest, and so we went with that. Programming, we have our camps, which are going to be soccer, football, volleyball, multi-sport, and basketball. And that'll be through Challenger and Skyhawks again. This summer, we'll be adding Crafty Critters, which is an art and crafts programming. We will be adding Adventure Days, which is youth field trips. So we'll have 3 youth field trips that we're providing. One is to the Denver Zoo, one is to Boondocks Adventure Center, and the other one would be for older kids to Topgolf. And the other program that we're adding is Girls on the Run, which is, are any of you familiar with it?
Yeah.
My daughter participated last fall. It's an amazing program. They provide all the curriculum, and it's basically girl empowerment from 3rd grade through 8th grade. And it's, you know, life lessons on the run. And you're training them to participate in a 5K. Part of the fee for Girls on the Run includes an entry fee to a 5K, usually in this area. So what we're doing with that is, this program is fairly expensive. So we're working with them to offset the costs on that to make it more affordable, which is what a lot of the school districts do when they run the program. So for adult rec, we have tournaments and leagues. We will be returning with a volleyball tournament. It was requested last year. We just didn't have enough time to kind of implement it, but it is on the itinerary for this year. And we are doing cornhole, a league, and that'll be summer and fall. And again, we'll be looking at the chamber to help with the beverage garden, where people enjoy their cornhole. Older active adults, for now we're continuing to serve to go. We are planning trips, Rockies game, an Empower Field Broncos Stadium tour, and then several Denver bus tours. Usually those are historic, and we received a lot of feedback from those. And we'll do 2 additional community meals. One is a picnic in the park, and another is for Christmas. As you know, we transitioned our fitness classes over to Anytime, and that has been going very well. They've actually increased participation compared to when it was held here. So for community events, first up in April we have our Easter extravaganza. We'll be working with Grandview on that. And then we have cleanup days scheduled in May and October. Fishing is fun, our community garage sale. We will resume the Rockin' and Reelin' Thursday night music and movies, which is alternating again. 4th of July bike parade will be held on 4th of July. National Night Out, which is the PD Public Works community engagement. And then we'll have the Wall That Heals, which is our big 4-day event in August. Community Day in September, and then Christmas in the Park, December. All of this recreation, programming, and events are already on the website. And then we did launch our digital brochure with that. And then we'll have flyers with the QR code to hand out at events so people can scan it and pull it up. But our community guide here, so it has quick links to everything. So if you click on baseball, it'll take you to the website baseball registration page, and it'll give you more information about when and how to register.
It's a flip page, right?
It is a flip page.
That's awesome.
Lorelai, can you put the QR code on our electronic sign?
We
there,
sure
like
can.
that? Okay, so people could just take a picture of that and.
Yep.
Is that a good idea? I don't know about that one. We'll get my phone out while I'm driving to take a picture of the QR code. Hopefully when they're walking their dog by.
Yeah, or when they're in the park, you know.
There you go. Questions, comments, Brooke? Going back to Twin Peaks Youth flag football turning into gridiron, so that happened last year, and we did participate. We had participated for years with Twin Peaks, and we participated with gridiron, and it was well run. So from a parent and participant perspective, you guys would be fine to continue with them if you wanted to. And they also had added, instead of tackle, they have flex, which was kind of touch, really push them down, but don't like tackle them football, for those of us who don't want our little young-brained children to be tackle. But so they have new options there as well. It wasn't as well, it wasn't as fun and as well received as we had hoped as far as the flex. But they made some adjustments and stuff. But gridiron did do a nice job, like Twin Peaks did. It was nice that Twin Peaks was locally run and everything. But so from that perspective, a lot of people from Twin Peaks stayed and went to gridiron. So it's still a lot of new families and everything.
That's good to
For
know.
that perspective. I'm sure the other, I've actually heard really good things about that one too though. So just wanna.
There are a lot of local communities participate in the NOCO, but I'll try to get with you about the gridiron thing, cause, we didn't have any idea that this happened. Our contact at Twin Peaks just stopped responding.
Well, that's what they sold it in.
Yeah, so we had no
With
transition, no information at all, it was just silence.
Yeah, maybe it is time to change, but I love that you're offering all these choices again. I mean, I feel like it's been an ebb and flow with recreation, at least over the past 15 years that I've been here. Sometimes it peaks, and I'm sure that's because of demand too, and how things go, but it's nice that we're doing it with volleyball. Is there a reason? I think it's volleyball. Yeah, that they're, volleyball. Is that what's starting, like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, next
There's
week.
too many things going on. That you're only going to 3rd grade and you're excluding 4th and 5th graders. Is that because?
With volleyball?
Yeah.
No, it goes 3rd through 8th.
Third through,
Starts
actually,
at
it's,
3rd.
What?
volleyball
There's
is
something-
first through eighth.
What goes only till 3rd and there's
Soccer.
not? Soccer, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of people chatting, what about our 4th and 5th graders? Is that because you see more people going to like St. Vrain and things? I mean, okay.
Yes,
I mean, I know there is that really delicate, they were trying to, at one time we were doing things through 8th grade and you could barely get teams together because you had middle school teams, you had competitive teams. So I just saw some chatter and I was like, I wonder why they're stopping at 3rd, but that makes sense.
So,
Soccer, sorry.
yeah,
Too many.
with soccer, during COVID, we took a real big hit, like a lot of communities, but we didn't have enough to make barely one single Mead team, let alone a league. So we did try to partner with the St. Vrain Football Club, and we did that for a year. And we had it to where they were registering, so our Mead teams were registering with us, and we were paying St. Vrain Football Club a fee like we do with Carbon Valley and Longmont. This year, they did not want that to happen. They wanted all the registration to go through them, which impacts our revenue. And we have enough kids to do pre-K through 3rd grade. Now, when you start getting into that 4th, 5th, 6th, they splinter off into other activities, and it's harder to get the numbers. But I think we will get there eventually.
That makes sense. And then our new soccer club field, have you guys talked with them about, you know? Yeah, thank you. I was like, I think the name. Talked with them about using the fields or you know, making sure that their kids can be on teams. I know they're more of a club level too, but It's fun to see kids out there in the middle of that field, practicing and stuff, but is there communication with them? Because they had said that they wanted to partner with us, or are they still too small?
I have not, had any communication with them, but I can get with Jason and get their contact information and
It would, I
see.
mean, since they're here and practicing now, it would be nice to see if we could do something with them, since they're local, so, okay, that's it.
Anything?
I would tell you that I was very, very involved in Mead Rec in my younger days as a coach and stuff. And what I just saw here is quite an evolution, from where we were. Pleasantly surprised. It was always a challenge way back to get fields, to get gyms, even working with Longmont and so on and so forth, and equipment. And I think maybe that's why some of it waned a little bit, because it was just, you couldn't have too many teams because you couldn't have enough practices. And it's hard to have a basketball team, you only practice an hour a week. Doesn't work well. So what I just saw is, like I said, it's a significant improvement. I'm glad it's moving in that direction, so thank you.
David, do you have any questions or comments for Lorelei?
No, I do not. Doing a great job. Keep it up.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Okay, next we'll move on to our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend a monthly coffee with the mayor. If you are here with us virtually, please indicate by raising your hand to speak. When you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. Again, if you wish to speak during the public comment, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board of trustees, and if you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak during this public comment? All right. Is there anybody with us virtually that would like to speak to the board of trustees tonight? Please raise your hand. All right. Well, thank you for being here with us, those of you on Zoom tonight. We'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and enacted in one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strands,
Yes.
trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to our legislative update by our town attorney, Marcus Mikowski. Sir, you have the floor. Thanks for updating us all of what's happening down in Denver.
Sure, Mayor, why don't I, take just a minute and I'll hand out a memo and then we can kind of go through that and follow one together, so give me just a second. And, David, I know you're joining virtually tonight, but I'll make sure that I leave a copy here, with you, and Mary can probably help, get you a copy. So the mayor and I had a chance to, talk about, me giving a short legislative update, at the meeting tonight. I know the mayor's been involved with the CML Policy Committee, and I think there was a legislative update session that I'm not sure if you attended last week, but Sylvia Bushenik, who's an attorney in my office, did attend that. So some of this information stems from some of the information she received at that event. And as you know, I mean, lots and lots of bills get introduced at the legislature. So this is by no means meant to be comprehensive in any way. What we've done here is kind of select a number of bills that are of import or interest to local governments in Colorado, so I thought I'd spend just a few minutes running through these. So you'll see on page one, we've highlighted, a lot of you have probably heard that there's collective bargaining legislation that will likely be introduced this session. You'll see that I have a note there that it has not yet been introduced. And this bill would mandate local governments, including home rule municipalities, to engage in collective bargaining. A lot of, the CML legislative reps or lobbyists think that that's a infringement on local control. I think that some of you saw, and I know Laura, I think even put a press release out last week because Weld County joined a lot of other counties across the state of Colorado in writing a letter in opposition to this proposed collective bargaining legislation. So this would grant public workers working for counties or cities or towns the right to unionize. And as you'll see, there's a bullet point that says more than 100 county commissioners in Colorado signed a letter opposing any legislative efforts mandating collective bargaining for local government employees. This letter was signed by commissioners representing 38 of the 64 counties across the state. And I think Weld County did not sign on to the letter, but they issued their own standalone letter. County officials said in the letter they don't oppose collective bargaining as a policy, but noted that it should be left up to the employers and employees to decide. And then you'll see a note there that the Colorado Association of School Boards, the Colorado Association of School Executives, CML, and the Special District Association oppose any such legislation. And then I just note there that there was a bill that was enacted during the 2020 legislative session, which was House Bill 2011-53, that allows state employees to collectively bargain, but that legislation did not apply to municipalities. So that's the collective bargaining bill, and again, that has not yet been introduced. Top of page 2, there's a proposed legislation dealing with sustainability. This bill would require companies or producers to pay fees based on packaging types. Obviously, this legislation would be intended to try to curb or get rid of excessive packaging and increase the use of recyclable and biodegradable materials. The fees that are generated on these companies or producers, the packagers, would go to local governments to help increase recycling services. There's a Canadian study that suggests that the program will not increase prices for consumers, and CML at this policy meeting that was held recently is likely to support that legislation. Next on the list is legislation that would mandate the adoption of an updated version of the IECC, or the International Energy Conservation Code. This is legislation that, again, has not yet been introduced. But the bill, when introduced, would establish minimum requirements for building energy efficiency codes and would require municipalities in Colorado, including the town of Mead, to adopt at least the 2021 IECC by January 1 of 2025. This adoption would include the code, which is aimed to make sure that new homes have electric and solar ready provisions for electric vehicles, being able to hook up easily to rooftop solar and other high efficiency electric appliances. I thought it'd be interesting to remind you all that Mead adopted in 2019, when you went through and adopted all of your updated building codes, the town of Mead did adopt the 2012 IECC, so that's what you're currently operating under. A lot of, I'd say the majority of local governments in Colorado are probably operating under either probably the 2012 or the 2015 IECC. There's a couple of jurisdictions like Denver and Boulder that are operating under the 2018 IECC, but to my knowledge, nobody's adopted the 2021 version of the IECC yet because it's fairly new. Interestingly, CML's position on this is that this is a bill that places an unfunded mandate on municipalities because they're requiring the adoption of this code without necessarily offering financial support to the communities to help administer these new codes. So CML will likely oppose this legislation. I'm looking at Mary on this next one because she's your Cora, expert, and she's, you know, as the clerk, she's your record keeper. But there is legislation that is expected to be introduced, from the Colorado Press Association to address research and retrieval fees and response times under the Open Records Act in Colorado. The second bullet point there, you'll note that CML has not yet been invited to the table to discuss this proposed legislation. CML will likely oppose this, and this is one where I have a note that elected officials are asked to reach out to legislators and emphasize how important it is to have local government input. So this is one where the bill hasn't yet been introduced, but we can continue to monitor that, and if and when it is introduced, you know, obviously your local government representatives down at the House, right, or Senator Kirkmeyer, District 23, and then Dan Wu, and I believe it's House District 63, but that's one that we can kind of continue to monitor. And if there was a majority of the board that was inclined to kind of draft a letter urging the importance of local control on Open Records Act, that's something that we could be happy to assist with. The next piece of legislation that's noted there is House Bill 22-1152, prohibit employer adverse action on marijuana use. This bill prohibits an employer from taking adverse action against an employee, including an applicant for employment, who engages in the use of medical marijuana on the premises of the employer during working hours, or retail or medical marijuana off the premises of the employer during non-working hours. This is not necessarily that new. It's my understanding that there was similar legislation to this that was introduced in the past, but it was defeated. Both the Colorado Municipal League oppose, as does the Colorado Association of the Chiefs of Police. And Chief Newbanks, I'm not sure if this is the legislation that you're slated to testify on. Is this the one?
It is.
It is. Do you have any additional background on that from CACP that maybe you want to share with the board? I thought it was interesting when I heard from Jenna that you were going to be testifying down at the Capitol on this one.
So just a couple of things. In my opinion, the bill's written very vaguely. So what does it include and what does it not include? We were told it excludes safety sensitive positions such as police officers, which, okay, that's great. We probably all figured that, but we're not sure about civilian employees. We would have similar concerns about our civilian employees, particularly those in charge of evidence and things like that. The other concern would be that the difficulty in regulating the use of that when it would come to employees driving or utilizing maybe other types of equipment or tools, and so that's very quickly a few of the concerns, but just a couple that I would point out. So obviously, as Marcus already pointed out, the chiefs of police are against that, and I was scheduled to testify to one of the committees on that, which was rescheduled for later this week, I think. So it hasn't been I haven't been rescheduled to testify on that, so I don't know if that'll take place or not, but those were just some of the concerns.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that background. And you'll note too, I mean, one of the other big ones you'll see is the third bullet point that I have under the summary there. I mean, I think critically, because there's, marijuana still remains a Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substances Act, that most of the federal funds that flow through to the local governments for highway projects or anything usually have provisions in those grant agreements that say that you have to certify that you're a drug-free workplace, which would become impossible or very difficult to do if this version of legislation is adopted. So one of the things that CML is really concerned with is, would the passage of this type of legislation that could apply to cities and towns, would that potentially jeopardize the federal funding that's going through some of the local governments in Colorado? Moving on to page 3, House Bill 22-1024. This does not necessarily directly impact Mead yet because you're not home rule, but that's something that I know we're going to talk about in the future. This is a bill that right now, under current law, any construction materials or building materials that are used in the construction of public projects, like public roads, streets, are exempt from sales and use tax. However, home rule cities continue to levy and collect those taxes on those types of public works projects. Not all of them, but some do. This bill would extend the exemption to the sales and use tax levied by home rule cities on such materials for use in connection with the construction or repair of public schools. So essentially, it would ensure that public school, any construction materials that are utilized in the building of a new school or repair of an existing school would be exempt from sales and use tax, and for that reason, CML opposes, because like I mentioned, there are some home rule municipalities that continue to collect those use taxes on those construction materials. I'm going to skip over the dissolution of special district legislation. I'll note at the bottom of page 3 there are a couple of bills that have been introduced to assist with wildfire mitigation efforts. I think that is to be expected, not only given the really terrible, fire season that we had in the high country this past summer, but also the recent Marshall fire that we had, which is more of a grassland fire, but we had really bad conditions there. And there's some efforts that will be focused on mitigating, not only helping folks with some grant programs, but also making money available to local government to help mitigate those risks in the future. On page 4, Senate Bill 22005 is Law Enforcement Agency Peace Officer Services. This bill is part of the governor's public safety package, and my understanding is that it's a pilot program through the Department of Law to retain and recruit post-certified peace officers, and there will be grants awarded to fund retention programs or for recruitment purposes and provide training resources. CML has taken an official position of support, and the chiefs of police have not taken an official position on this yet, but that may be out of date. This was correct as of Friday, I think. So I don't know, Chief, is CACP still kind of neutral on?
So I don't know, they're working on a couple of amendments. I don't know the current status of those.
Okay. Great, and then, let's see, I know House Bill 221131, this is interesting because under current law, juveniles who are 10 years of age and older can be prosecuted in juvenile court. This bill removes juveniles who are 10, 11, and 12 years of age from the juvenile court's jurisdiction, meaning they may not be charged with a crime except in the case of homicide. And CML and CACP oppose this legislation. And then moving into kind of the realm of land use, there is a bill proposed to be introduced related to the regulation of tiny homes. I'm sure you guys have all heard about tiny homes or seen them in the news. So this legislation would create a mechanism to legally place tiny homes in areas where they are approved through your local town zoning, as well as a regulatory structure that would allow inspection and oversight from both the state and local governments. My understanding is that it would be somewhat akin to the current way in which mobile homes are regulated in the state of Colorado. It wouldn't be too extremely dissimilar from that. And there's some proponents of this legislation that think that making the regulation of tiny homes easier may be one way in which the affordable housing crisis can potentially be addressed. Again, this hasn't been introduced, but it's my understanding that based on an early version, the CML has seen of that they are going to support. So that is just a kind of a snippet of some of the bills that have been introduced, and I know, Mayor, you had quite a number that were on a list that you sent to me, and we didn't have a lot of overlap, but I wanted to maybe pass it over to if you had any, specific pieces of legislation that you wanna maybe highlight for the board as well.
No, not at this time, because it's so early in the session.
It is
We've
very
already
early.
talked about that earlier, but I still think it's important for us to track things as we go through, and in case, you know, our representatives from Marcus's firm thinks we need to, or if Mary thinks that we need to, so at this time, I don't wanna bore anybody with things that are coming or going, you know,
It can all change.
It'll, you know,
Yes.
you know, we'll throw things on the wall and they come off, but I think, thank you very much, Marcus, for putting this together, because we just kind of pieced this together through the weekend, so thank you very much, and I think it's very important for us to make a stand, or make a voice if we need to, in opposition or support of something that's happening down there, so.
Yeah, and I just know, I mean, last year we did something similar where I would kind of, you know, give you an update as we move through the session, because things do change and they change rapidly, sometimes, but we'll do our best to, provide these types of updates, to, future agendas.
And every week changes, I tell you what, every week changes. So, thank you, Marcus, very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments for him? David? Oh, sorry, go ahead. David, do you have any questions or comments for Marcus?
No, I don't at this time.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this, it's helpful, because so much happens and doesn't happen and changes, but I think this is really good, cause it's hard stuff to understand sometimes too, because it does go through so many iterations, so.
All right, thanks, Chief, for doing your work down there too, appreciate it, keeping us safe to fight a good fight. All right, we'll move on to our second public comment, of the evening. Is there anyone in the room or with us virtually that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees tonight? Please raise your hand. All right, we'll move on to our elected official reports. Any of the town trustees would like to say anything, bring up anything? Okay, just have, we have, the I-25 coalition this week, and Dr. Cog work session, and the coffee with the mayor on Saturday. Mary makes fabulous coffee, doesn't she? Yeah. So thank you very much, Mary, for being with us. I don't have anything further. Does any of the trustees need to bring up anything before we leave? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. The February 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is adjourned at 7:08. I appreciate everyone's time, and have a good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.